Hi, it's Ian here from Safety First Driving School. In this video we're going to look at secondary controls. Before you start the driving test, the driver tester will ask you to demonstrate your ability to operate some of these secondary controls. You may only be asked to operate 2 or 3, but be familiar with them all and where they are positioned in the car. For different car they will be positioned in a different place, but generally the symbols are all the same. It's a very common fault on the driving test to allow the front windscreen or the 2 side windows to fog up and not reacting to this problem during the driving test. So it's important that you have a cloth or demister pad in the car ready to wipe your windows and mirrors before you start. If the front window or the side windows begins to fog up on the driving test, it's important that you pull in on the side of the road to let the tester know that you want to clear your windows. A very important tip when you're doing the driving test, especially if you're driving in wet or damp conditions, is to open the windows slightly on both sides. What this does is it stops the windows from fogging up and allows you to hear traffic that you can't see and keeps you cool in the car. But it's very important that you don't let the windows fog up, and they shouldn't get to the stage where you have to use your hand to wipe the window. It's very important also to keep the front windscreen clear as well, so if that begins to fog up and you don't react to it in time, you will lose marks. Before we show you the secondary controls, be aware of the phrase or terminology that the driver tester may use, especially if English is not your first language. Be also aware that if you can't find one of the controls when you're asked to operate it, you will get marked on the test as well. So we're going to show you the hazard warning lights first. So the hazard warning lights are the same in any car. It's this red triangle here in the centre, so I'm just going to turn it on and then you can just turn it off again. But be aware that it may be positioned in a different car in a different place. For example, in the BMW, it may be positioned somewhere down here, just near the gearbox. You may also be asked to operate the air conditioning. This is the air conditioning here in this car, so that's how you turn it on. The driver tester may then ask you to operate what we call the rear demister. This is called the rear demister or the back window heater, which is the button that you press to clear the back window. Or you may also be asked how to clear the back window if your back window is completely fogged up. So you turn on the rear demister, you turn on the heat at maximum, then you turn on your fan, and that's how to clear the back window. You may then be asked how to clear the front window or to operate what we call the front demister. It's this symbol here. In a different car you may have separate buttons for the rear and the front demister. You then will probably be asked how to operate the front wipers, which must also work for the test. So the front wiper in this car is here. Most cars you bring it up or down, in this car you twist it forward. So to turn on the intermittent, if it begins to rain very lightly, twist it on the first level. If it rains any heavier, twist it again for the next level. Or if it's lashing rain, you will from time to time have to turn on the maximum level to keep your window clear. It's very important that you keep your windows clear when it's raining on the test. But also be aware as well that if it does stop raining, then you turn the wiper off as well. The driver tester will more than likely ask you how to spray the water on the windscreen if you can't see the road ahead of you. So you put your finger in behind and you spray it towards you to spray the water on the windscreen like this. You may be asked to operate the back wiper. This is a hatchback car. In a saloon car you won't have a back wiper. But the back wiper in this car, you twist this small switch here, and now to spray the water on the back window, you press this forward. And there's the water spraying on the back wiper there. We're now going to show you how to operate the lights. Just be aware that when you're doing the driving test in very grey or overcast skies or begins to rain or drizzly rain, you should turn on what we call the parking light or the first level light. So I'm just going to twist it on there. So that's called the parking light, and if you don't turn on the lights when you really should have them on, it begins to get dark or rain, you may get marked on the driving test as well. So make sure you turn on your lights when you need to if it begins to get dark. If it begins to get darker or begins to rain heavier, you should turn on what we call the dipped headlights if you're driving at night time. So you will be asked to operate the dipped headlight, which is the second level. So I'm just going to turn that back on, so it's the second level here. The driver tester may then ask you to operate what we call the full headlight or the full beam. So to turn that on in this car, generally in most cars you press this forward. But in this car you bring it towards yourself until the blue light comes on the dashboard, and then you release it. That's now called the full beam or the full headlight. The driver tester will then ask you to do what we call dip the headlights. So you bring it back towards yourself again and release, and the blue light should disappear. So it's very important that you know the difference between the dipped headlights and how to turn on the full beam or the full headlight. Any modern car these days has a rear fog light, and you more than likely may be asked to operate that as well. A lot of people don't know where the rear fog light is, and you get marked if you can't find it. The fog lights in this car are in this panel here. So to operate the fog light you have to have the dip lights on first. So to operate the front fog light is this button here on the top, and the green symbol here will come on the dashboard. But the rear fog light in this car is the button underneath it, and now the orange symbol will come on to tell you that the rear fog light is on. This is all of the controls that you may be asked before you start, so it's important that you know when to use them and how to operate them for your driving test.